Back
That's
in the
right,
saddle.
everybody. We're back. We're back and ready to ride. It's November 4th, 2017, and to my left sits attorney extraordinaire Benton Ross Watson. This segment is sponsored by Coppolino Dodd Krebs Law Firm, and we can't thank them enough to get individuals like you, Ross, and Rick on here giving us some great information. And today we're talking about what I sent you a text, and I'm saying, hey, let's talk about what can screw you in court. What can F you in court, okay? I've had conversations with people about, if you modify this gun, or you read articles, if you modify this gun, it makes it look like you're aggressive. If you get this self-defense ammo, it looks like you're aggressive. It looks like you're hungry for blood. And then if you put these signs on the door like, you can enter but you won't leave, or it's got bullet holes in the signs and it says, hey, this house is armed with .357. And I hear all these commentaries that, man, that can get you screwed. It can get you in court. Tell us about it.
Oh, man.
You're enjoying that way too much.
That's a classic, man. We should pull that from the tapes when he did it.
Make a
Ross
soundbite out of it.
Make a soundbite out of it, yeah.
So, yeah, I did. You kind of were questioning me when I walked in here because I don't really have anything concrete for you, and that's because there's nothing concrete. There's not going to be any cases I can give you that are good example cases. It would be across the board, and it's on a case by case basis, and it covers such a broad category. But I'm going to throw out a few things that I've encountered, and a few caveats about what you do. And I'm going to start with Facebook, social media.
I heard horror stories about that.
Okay, I can tell you, right? I'm not the first attorney. I sure won't be the last. I bet you every single family law attorney, any attorney out there that practices family law, has probably just been horrified by the Facebook. Their client comes in, they think they have a great case. They, oh, this is good. I'm gonna really be able to win my client a case here, and then all of a sudden they get a subpoena for the Facebook. Request for production of all social media, and you try to resist it.
That's scary, man.
And then you get a good family law attorney specialist like Michelle M. Kill, and she comes in there in Rockdale. She comes in, subpoena again, compel, got you back in court, can't hide from her, right? All of a sudden you got a stack of front and back even. You got a stack of papers front and back, and it's from the floor up to your waist in your client's Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat. You can go back and find that stuff, okay? And you're seeing all of the stuff that your client did, and you're just like, man, we got to settle this case. Okay? And so I'm telling you that you need to realize that anything you put in a text message, okay, a Facebook Messenger, right? Anything you put on, on your profile pages, on your Instagram post, your Pinterest posts, okay? I've had Pinterest used against one of my clients, okay? And so you need to realize that at any time, right, that stuff is evidence, okay? And I haven't always made the wisest decisions either. I realize that we all, especially when we're talking to somebody in a private scenario that we never anticipate ever is going to be made a public record, or think that there would ever be an issue with that. You always need to be extremely careful, okay, when you are having something that can be recorded digitally. And if you're doing it on the internet, just know that's probably never going to be erased.
Ever.
Okay, and now I'm not going to get all into the dark web. That's outside the scope of this this radio program, but there's all kinds of ways to go back in and get things that you think you deleted. And just because it says it's deleted and it's been in the trash and then emptied from the trash for several even years, that does not necessarily mean that it is gone. And so just know that. And so, yes, I've actually had in a family law case, I bring family law up because I've had the issue with guns brought up in a family law case. And no, I don't mean CPS. I mean everyday people. It's people that you would not even realize would be having these issues. And it's a shame, but yes, sometimes the ownership of guns, right, has tended to harm a parent as far as custody of the kids are concerned. And so you need to make sure too that you are following safety precautions, because if there is ever an issue, and trust me, you do not think there is going to be an issue. Okay, I realize that, but I'm telling you, there's people that come to my office that you would be like, I cannot even believe that this person is here and having these issues. And so I'm saying any bad things happen to good people. Okay, and if you think that all people are good, or you think somebody's good, you probably just don't really know that person, because everybody's got skeletons in their closet. Everybody's got secrets. I'm just more open about mine. Okay, and straightforward. I'm telling you though, you shouldn't say it's not going to happen to me. Okay, just like it's the same with weapons.
When's
same
it gonna
thing.
happen? When's it gonna happen?
Right. And I'm not telling you to be paranoid. I'm not telling you to be paranoid. I'm just saying, don't go off the cuff and put stuff, or at least halfway think about what you're putting on your profile page. Even likes. I've had likes be used against my clients. What they liked. You can go back and see the pictures they liked. And just because they didn't send it to anybody, they didn't post it, right? But it registered as they liked it, and the other attorney allowed them to say, "Oh, so you like that? You think that this is good? You think this is cool? Is this what a good parent does? You think this is what a good parent would do?" You need to realize that. See, and you got to think about, right, is this what I want people to stand for? Is this what I represent? So you got to be careful about that. The thing with criminals.
Trey, can you check my Facebook and see if my like count went up or down?
Yeah. Yeah, especially, watch out liking this guy.
Okay, go ahead.
So I also, in the criminal law segment, I mean, the Facebook and social media has been used as evidence a lot of times, and there's really nothing I can tell you on how to stay away from that. If you're in a situation where you're on probation, don't even have a Facebook, because you're opening yourself up. What if somebody's tagging you? And you need to be careful, because if you're at a bar and they take a picture of you, hey man, you're violating your probation. Yeah, that's happened once, twice, more than that. Okay, I mean, just realize that this stuff is all evidence in the age of technology, right? It's not only the police. It's not only the police that are under scrutiny. Okay, yeah, everybody can be videotaped. Anybody can be taking a picture of anybody. You can be posted and have your face on Facebook, even if you don't have a profile. But if you have a profile, it makes it that much worse. The other thing, when we're talking, and look, as far as actually having the ammunition, the guns, the weapons, the things like that, yes, if you're trafficking firearms, or you are in some sort of conspiracy and you're doing stuff like that, obviously, right, having those things is going to hurt you, right? But we're not on this show speaking to those of you who fall into that category. If you're doing all that, you're stupid. And so, that's the bottom line. That's going to be used as evidence against you. For somebody on the self-defense aspect of it, okay, remember that we have what's called provocation, and we have what's called a reasonable belief that the harm was imminent. If you remember Trayvon Martin, right, they brought up a lot of that guy's history and how he wanted a fight and how he did all this training and how he had stuff in his... I don't remember all the specifics. I wish that I probably should have gone back and at least done a Google search on the case. But we all remember that there was things about that individual that they brought up that really had nothing to do with the circumstance that happened at the time. It was things about his personal life that they brought out, right, to try to show that maybe he wanted to provoke Trayvon Martin, or that he just was edging to kill somebody. And that's really what his goal was, not for self-defense. And there are some evidentiary issues that would come into play to help me protect you from some of those things, but you have to remember that you have to have a reasonable belief, and ultimately that comes down to what, right, the jury would feel like. What would a reasonable person in your situation do? But you can always show that you had a bad intent. And so there can always, that reasonable belief can always be negated with some sign with some type of malicious intent, some type of wanton, some type of evil motive, some type of immoral motive, so to speak. Not necessarily immoral, but from the standpoint of this wasn't to protect yourself. This was for some agenda that maybe you wanted to meet subjectively or either, politically. Okay. With that being said, you got to know that I could also show from a prosecutor standpoint that maybe you were trying to provoke this person. And so there may be things that you have in your past that would allow me as a prosecutor to bring out before the jury to say it was really your purpose to try to provoke. There's a Fifth Circuit case, a federal case, where some gang members, right, got raided and they were charged with murder because they shot some police officers, and they asked for a self-defense claim basically on what we've talked about. They asked for a manslaughter charge too, and because the police basically raided their house, so they shot initially is what they're saying too, right, in defense, not as a not as to engage the police. It wasn't like them attacking the police, and so they asked for a self-defense charge and a manslaughter charge, and they were denied because they had stockpiles of weapons, they had modified ammunition, they had all kinds of army gear and things like that showed they expected to go to war, and they were preparing to go to war with the FBI's office. Okay, that was actually the ATF. All right, but they were preparing for war, and they wanted the war, and this is what they wanted, and that was proved. That charge was denied by the judge, and that case was overturned on appeal. Okay, but not on those grounds. So it was overturned on some other sentencing guidelines from what I remember about the case. And so, yes, I would say that there's always a chance for that stuff to be brought out to show that maybe you had some kind of evil intent. Now, it's so across the board. I'm not going to tell you that if you have shirts and stuff or own guns or have modified ammunition in and of itself, right, that's going to be used as evidence. I don't think so. Okay, and it's so factually specific, and it's so there's a large minutia of cases all over the map, so to speak, that I feel uncomfortable telling you that having this stuff won't affect you at all, and I feel uncomfortable telling you that,
Ross, I feel uncomfortable listening to you.
Oh, okay. Well,
I really do.
Well, that's
because what you're
saying.
saying.
Come in the office for a week.
What you're saying is just like, oh my gosh, they can do anything to you for any. Here you are, the most legitimate person. You're just preparing for yourself and the downfall of society or whatever, and you get flipped around as though you're a maniac. It's just unbelievable. Makes you kind of start scratching your head and wonder. There's no safe way. Your time will come sooner or later, unless you just live under a rock, work 9 to 5, make minimum wage, go to Walmart, get your stuff, go home, watch TV, and that's it. Otherwise, you go outside those boundaries, you're opening the door for a mistake. And once the mistake happens, gosh, what would they do on this radio show? If they were going to, for some reason, get me and they want to check me out, they'd pull every freaking show that I've done and say, this guy's nuts.
But you got to remember from the standpoint, too, that district attorney gets paid the same amount of money, if he gets 100 cases a year or 10 cases a year. Okay, and so does that police officer. Okay, and so at some point, how many radio shows do they have to go through before it's just simply not worth the public and the time?
What's that one story, Billy Goat's Gruff or something? Don't get me. Which one's Don't Eat Me? It's my brother's even bigger, and then he gets the big brother.
Billy Goat's Gruff.
Yeah.
And so at some point,
I'm just a little radio show.
I mean, that's the thing. Is like, it is what it is. It's just the fact that you are using your First Amendment right to, talk about gun safety and self-defense and things like that on the air. If there was nothing really glaringly specific, that's what I'm saying. It's going to be hard for them to use that against you. Okay, and there would also potentially be a First Amendment issue, right? If you're on here advocating for a Second Amendment right, okay, and then they're trying to use that against you, unless you said something like, in this situation, I don't care what the law says, I would kill this person.
Well,
right? And it met that exact factual scenario. It met the exact facts of the case. Okay, then I don't think they could use that.
What about those signs that you see on people's homes? It's either the target that they have.
We don't call 911 around here.
We don't call 911, or they got the target that they had at the range with all the bullet holes in the head and the chest, or they've got, you come in here, you're going to be taken out, or I forget some of them, but they say basically if you enter this property, you may not be leaving.
There's a good counter argument to that. If they're charged with self-defense, you got to ask, why did the person come in their house? Why is the person there?
Okay, but now you're defending the person who got shot. You're going to say, aren't you kind of aggressive? You were kind of aggressive.
I'm going to say,
I'm learning this from you guys because no matter what you do in the court of law, it seems like it doesn't matter. You're going to twist it and malign it.
I think what he's saying, Matt, is at that point the burden comes on the person who got shot because they had warning that if you go in here with malicious intent, I'm going to shoot you.
No, I understand that.
Well, that tells me if I go in here at all and I don't have a good reason, this is not a good idea.
No, this is probably bad for me to say, but I'm getting a very tainted view of the courtroom. I really am. It's like you insert information that you want to have heard, the judge wants to have heard. You try to get the right kind of jury. You try to pick them right. Some things they'll let you talk about, some things they won't. You take a vote on a question that's being asked and you get an answer to a different question. I mean, if I'm the person in the court trying to be freed, I'm going to worry and sweat bullets, pun intended. Okay?
Tell me something, Ross, and maybe I'm off on this, but it seems that less and less the interest is in justice being served and the truth getting out, and more in winning.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely been a victim of that myself, and a perpetrator of that same ideology. I mean, yes, you want your lawyer to be competitive, though.
Right.
And so, from a lawyer standpoint, yeah, we're competitive. And so I play college football. There's nothing that can even compare to doing battle in the courtroom intellectually, right, against another person, and there's no safety net for me. If I make a mistake, it's out for the world to see right there in front of 12 people.
But in a lot of times,
so yeah, it's all I'm getting. It is like part of why I do this job is to compete and to win, but that's why prosecutors take an oath that their job is not to win but to see that justice is done. That's actually within the Code of Criminal Procedure, right? And it's actually an oath that they have to take. Now, I will tell you that I think there are a bunch of prosecutors who lose sight of that. There are a bunch of prosecutors who get personally tied up into the case, but we are all human. I think from a general standpoint, most prosecutors try to follow that, and sometimes on specific cases maybe forget that duty. Okay, and a lot of times, right, it's because the person's an asshole. Okay, and they're just tired of this dude, all right, or girl, right, and they're just tired of him, and they want to go after him. And from that standpoint, you almost gotta respect what they did, and they may be doing justice, so to speak, to some degree in those cases. But I think too, in family law cases, I think attorneys have a problem, right, with putting too much credit into what their clients say. I know that when I started out, I had that problem, right? And yeah, you got to fight for your client, but at the same time, you got to realize that if you go at this like your client wants, they want to win. Your client wants to win, right? You may end up hurting them worse in the end because, right, you're not thinking clearly about what the facts really are. And so a lot of times, if you do have somebody that does a bunch of family law cases, a lawyer that does a bunch of family law cases, and they're sitting there telling you they're not getting emotional like you, right? You should probably listen to them because they're probably trying to give you some good reason, right, from somebody who's able to reason and not emotionally attached to the issues in the case. And that's because, yes, the issues in a family law, I speak to family law in this case because a lot of things tie in and are very important to a family law deal. But you need to realize, like, sometimes you need to settle a case. It just is what it is, and make a business decision instead of just trying to, right, get that person or win or things like that. I hope that answers your question. If you want something more specific.
No, that's...
I have a question. Would you be willing to give me some idea, or the people listening some idea, of when you get somebody in your office, what do you use to determine if this is a client that you want to take on?
So I'm trying to get away from the door lawyer aspect. I mean, I used to, when I started, I took it about any case that walked in the door. And that was fun. It was good for me.
And I get that.
Gave me a good broad base. I've been doing a lot more estate planning, a lot more business planning, a lot more multiple things to tie into all that. And so I have a set category. You know, I've got now a questionnaire basically that I follow when I'm looking, well, you know, how many kids you got, what's your wife, what's your assets, what is this, what are you trying to do, what are your future plans, where are you trying to go, right? How much money do you have, right? Because it could be a lot of work for me, and if you don't have enough, right, then it's not worth it for you because you probably don't even need this much protection, right? If you don't have that enough, maybe we can get away with doing this, right? And it'll be, you know, maybe you think it's less valuable for me, but you got to remember there's a lot less work that goes into that. It's a lot more automatized. So,
well, I want to focus on like somebody
on a criminal case,
Mm-hmm.
Family law cases. You're lucky if I take your case anymore. I'm trying to get away from family law, but I do take the occasional one on a just case, and it's hard to determine. But I try to stay away from a lot of them. But on a criminal case, how do I determine if I'm going to take it, or how do I determine if the client's guilty? Because if you're asking me that,
there's three sides to a story. There's their side, the other side, and then the truth of the two. So you got to make this gut decision.
I'll tell you that about 50% of my clients, criminal guys, lie to me, right? Or at least 50% do not tell me what really happened, and a large portion of that 50%, okay, are lies.
So when you go to decide it, let's say you take one of them, and down the road you start trying to do your duty to defend them. Come to find out that some of the stuff they told you wasn't right. What does that do to you? What kind of position does that put you in? Are you able to say, "Hey, man, I can't do this because what you told me is not right"?
So I've learned my lesson. I don't ever start talking to the prosecutor until I've seen everything that they've got. Because what if I go in there and say, "Well, I say, how many convictions or something have you had?" For instance, this is an easy example, okay? And this is like the first mistake I made as an attorney, and I've never made it again. But I ask, how many convictions do you have? And they'll say, oh, this. And so then I look at the stuff, right? And I don't look at the conviction page because they've already told me, right? And then I go to the prosecutor. I was like, hey, man, this is, yeah, you got him, but he's not a bad guy. He's only got one conviction. One conviction? What? Have you seen his convictions? And hands me the NCIC, which they're not supposed to, but they're just so surprised that I'm saying he's only got one conviction. He feels sorry for me. Hands me the NCIC form. It's about 20 pages long, okay, just filled with 10 years of every 6 months the guy's in and out of jail. And I'm looking, you realize you just hurt your case because now he knows you're a liar and you lied to me. And so when you do lie about the obvious facts like that, yeah, I tend now to get off. I will get off, and my contract says that if I get off the case because you've lied to me, right, that fee is earned because you've hurt my reputation. It's a good cost of doing business. Okay, and the thing about this,
I see that and I respect that.
Yeah, I mean, I hate going in there and not knowing about the case, and so yeah, don't lie to your lawyer. I'm telling you, that really hurts you. And look, if you got
confidential anyway,
that's why you need to make sure you hire a good criminal defense attorney. And I'm not even saying for every case that's me, right? But on the specific case, because here's why: if you got a defense attorney that knows what he's doing, he's gonna know what questions not to ask you.
It's a chess game, man.
Okay, and so if you don't want him to know some things, if you got the right defense attorney, right? Some guys try to talk to him like, look, I don't want you to tell me everything yet. I don't care if you're guilty or innocent. You may be innocent, but I don't want to know yet. Because there may be something that I don't need to know. Okay? And that's it. I mean, I need to know how to defend you and how to protect you from the government. I don't necessarily need to know everything that you say about the case. And so I think that, at some point I can't let you lie either. And so you're not going to get on the stand, right? And I'm going to have to ask you, if you're going to take the stand, I'm going to have to know what you're going to want to do. But let's try to avoid that if we can, because like we said on this show, how many times? 98% of these cases, right, plea out. And I don't necessarily like that. I think the system's flawed, but that's just how it is.
Ross, I think what we're going to do, I want to talk to you. We're going to get all these videos that we have, these segments of ours. We're going to make a book. I don't know what we're going to call it yet, but we're going to make a book. How the Courtroom Can Screw You. Would that be a good title? I don't know. I'm going to talk to you about it off air, see if we can come up with a book. I've always wanted to write a book. All right. We're running out of time here. Our topic was basically what can F you in court. And I brought up guns, signs, and ammo. One thing on the ammo, though, I want to go back to that because that's a common thing. I wanted to get to the common ground of what licensed to carry people, because this is a licensed to carry attorney segment. They're carrying weapons, and they always want to get their self-defense ammo and all this kind of stuff for stopping power. And we understand the concept of it. We want hollow points or these newfangled type of ammunition that's got the ball in it or opens up a certain way, because we don't want it to go through, whereas a full metal jacket bullet can go right through an individual and potentially hurt people down in past that threat. So what may be a good idea for us may be looked at in a courtroom as, hey, you're over aggressive or you're hungry for blood or something like that. That's why I was talking about those topics.
No, that's exactly, but how does that hurt you? And that's what I'm saying. These are some questions I don't have a good answer to, because I guess potentially, right? But it would have to be very factually specific, and there's always a good counter argument to these things. And so, I mean, even if you've got the most technologically advanced modified ammunition, okay, you're still going to be able to say, I'm just trying to keep up with the bad guys.
Okay, so the myth out there that it's, you shouldn't be doing this, it's just a myth. There's no really need to worry about it. Protect yourself the best way you can.
Judge, I'm scared of the end of the world's coming. Why does it have anything to do with me defending myself?
Okay, well, a lot of people will rest easy now knowing that special ammo that guy's okay.
But you just need to be, I mean, if you're out there talking about you're going to kill people and this and that, you're going to have a problem. But that's what I'm saying. These are so, I'm not going to sit here and say it would never hurt you, right? Because I can't. But I'm also going to say I wouldn't be paranoid about this, right? I mean, as long as you're acting like we said as a reasonable person should, and you're following what you should do under the LTC rules, right? And you're being responsible.
Like the Vegas shooter, they go and they find these articles that he's been looking at, or papers that he's seen, or he's members of this. They put all these things together, and like we talked about before, profile him as to, hey, this guy's a nutcase. So if you got a guy,
hey, they've been looking at me a long time now.
Okay, I'm getting the time signal here. Ross, tell everybody how they can get a hold of you.
Yeah, my primary office location is here in Cameron. It's at 105 East Main. That's 105 East Main here in Cameron. You can also contact me. You can call my office phone at 254-605-4140. That's 605-4140. Rick Dodd knows where I am. He comes on the show often. You can go ask him. If you can't find me too, Benton at Watson.legal. That's Benton at Watson.legal. And I appreciate you guys having me on.
It's always a pleasure to have you on. It's never a dull moment. Thank you very much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a break. Trey, take us out. When we come back on the other side, we'll be talking about what's coming up in the very near future. See you in a little bit.
Thanks, man.